guys, it's Emma, and I'm back today for you with another video. And today, we're doing a rant review, okay? And that rant review is over Mercury Boys by Chandra Prasad. Mercury Boys is about Saskia, whose entire life has been upended essentially by her parents' divorce. So now she's in a new town, in a new school, and she has discovered that if she touches some mercury and then touches a daguerreotype, which is essentially the precursor to the photograph, if she touches the daguerreotype after the mercury, she can visit the person in the daguerreotype in her dreams. So she tells, her friends, and then her friends are able to do it, so they essentially start this club. Okay, so the trigger warnings for this book are suicide attempt, racism, war, and gore. Okay. When I was around maybe page 50-something, alright, I started to go on Goodreads and look at the reviews, and I stumbled upon the average rating of the book, and it was 2.99. And I was like, oh. And then when I had essentially given 1 star to this book, however many days after I gave my rating, I went back and I looked at the general rating, it was 2.98. I was like, oh.
I could not believe it.
I do apologize. So yeah, this is basically going to be my spoilery rant review for Mercury Boys. With that being said, I want to put a little disclaimer right here, okay? I do not mean any hate or negativity towards any fans of this book, fans of this author, or the author. These are simply my opinions. Opinions are subjective, reading is subjective, and unfortunately I didn't have a good time reading this book at all, okay? So we're just gonna, talk about the pros and the cons and why I really didn't like this book. So before we start, I would actually really appreciate it if you guys could go down in the description box below and look at the links that I have posted there, okay? They're for causes about things that are going on in the world right now. And in the comment section, let me know whether or not you guys have read this book, whether or not you agree or disagree with anything I say about this book in this video. And yeah, with that being said, let's just get right into it. Unfortunately, the only pro that I have for this book is the premise. I thought the premise was really, really cool, okay? I've never read a book dealing with Mercury, okay? And it kind of like had a time traveling thing with it. I like time traveling. I thought that the way that this book went about with the premise, strictly the bullet points of the premise, I thought that was pretty cool. That being said, this book's first con for me is a severe issue of telling and not showing. There's barely any build-up anywhere, especially at the beginning, all right? Things just happen too fast in this book. For example, when Saskia is obsessed with Cornelia, she becomes obsessed with him so fast, all right? The other girls being obsessed with their boys and their daguerreotypes, that happens so fast. And then the time jumps, okay? There's too much verbal catching up and there's not enough action to actually catch us up. And that lack of build-up bleeds, unfortunately, into the dynamic of the friend group that we follow. I could definitely see elements of Bunny in here. Okay, Bunny is one of my favorite books of all time. It's one of my favorite, cult-ish hive mind books of all time. With Bunny, there are cultish activities, but it's stabilized by there being a strong base for the friendship. Mercury Boys, unfortunately, does not have that. This book tried to focus on the female friendships. I do give it credit for that. However, it tried too hard, in my opinion, and therefore instead made the friendships seem immensely toxic because there was that lack of a base to build these friendships on. They just were friends like that. This next point is very, very short, and it's very, very petty, and I realize that. But the font in this book is rage-inducing for me. It is reminiscent to me of a scientific study paper.
Not this.
It doesn't make for a nice reading experience just right off the bat. Now, we have the characters. Okay, this book is character-driven, I would say. And out of all the characters that we meet, okay, Lila, she's the only one that I liked. She is the only one that I liked, and she gets fucked over constantly by everybody. All right, including Saskia, who's supposed to be her best friend. Speaking of Saskia, she is probably one of the most selfish characters that I've ever laid eyes on, okay? It is ridiculous. And yeah, she, comments on herself being so selfish, but she doesn't do anything about it. And it's like, girl, We love the self, identification, but there's no reflection. All right, we're missing a step. Her inner thoughts are too melodramatic, in my opinion, for the rest of the book. The rest of the book is not melodramatic, in my opinion. It tries to be, more modern in order to draw in the young audiences, but then you have the inner monologues that sound like they're from a high fantasy novel. There's no consistency in that regard. And then the dialogue. The dialogue was very cringy. All right, I've said this multiple times. I definitely said it in my review on Goodreads of Say You Swear by Megan Brandy. If you know that you can't write teenagers, please don't. It's not a good reading experience to listen to an adult try and mimic children very, very badly. The plot twist. So essentially what happens is it's Saskia, Lila, Paige, Sarah Beth, and Adrian. Those are the 5 girls in this friend group, all right? And they each have daguerreotypes. They each have their own Mercury boy. And the plot twist is that Paige and Sarah Beth, all right, the 2 sisters were lying. This entire time, this entire book, they've never had dreams. They've never met their Mercury boys. This entire time, they have been lying to Saskia to get back at Saskia for sleeping with Paige's on-again, off-again boyfriend. That is the plot twist, okay? And, they essentially wanted to make Saskia suffer by thinking that, after all of this, that she is in fact crazy. First of all, the villainous monologues in here. Holy crap. I don't like villainous monologues, okay? I think they make your villain cheap and cartoonish. And I think that if your villain has to spell out everything that they did in order for us as readers and the main characters to get it, then the villains don't seem to be written very well. The meat of it, Paige and Sarah Beth lying about their dreams just makes it this whole thing so much more confusing, okay? Because we literally see each of the girls as, as they dream. For example, we get Adrian's right here, a dream of Adrian. Does that mean that Adrian was lying the whole time? Did Adrian actually see the Mercury boys? We get Paige's, and we get Sarah Beth's dream as well. We get Lila's, we get Saskia's, obviously. And so it's like, why did we see their dreams? Considering all of that, okay, what is going on?
Who allowed this?
Did Sarah Beth and Paige actually have dreams and were like, holy shit, maybe she's not making it up after all, but we can't let her know that. We have to go through with our plan. So they just said that they didn't have any dreams? Were the dreams that we read not actual things happening? And if so, why were they included? And then off of Paige and Sarah Beth, does that mean that Adrian and Lila didn't actually have dreams? And if so, then why did we see their dreams as well? It just makes everything so much more confusing. What is real? This kind of bleeds into the whole thing of, and it was all a dream. And I'm sorry, I think that is such a cop-out anytime that a book uses that to where it was like, oh, it was all a dream, or this, and this never happened. That's not fun, personally, for me to read, okay? Because now I feel duped. It feels like you wrote yourself into a corner and didn't know how to get out of it unless you just completely nullified an entire chunk of your book. So I'm just confused, okay? These questions that I have that are being left, essentially, out in the open are not mysterious, okay, to be left to the whim of the imagination. These are not abstract questions. These are questions that deal with technicalities of the book that, in my opinion, do not work being left out. What do you mean this entire premise of your book happened and we saw it happen, but actually didn't happen? My last con, and this one is the biggest and the most fucking worrying to me, okay? The whole thing with Saskia and Robert Cornelius. Robert Cornelius being the guy in Saskia's daguerreotype. They kiss. Robert Cornelius, this man is in his 30s. He's in his 30s. Saskia, she's in high school. And they kiss. They're romantic. Okay, and when they kiss, she, you know, pushes him away and runs out, and that's when her dream ends, and she and the friends are talking about it, and they're like, oh yeah, well, you know, he's married, you know, it's a good thing you did that, he's married, as if that's the biggest issue about it. Yes, he's married, and that's a bad thing, okay, but it's also a pretty worse thing, the fact that he kissed a child, all right, and yes, you can give me the whole thing of, well, that's what happened back then. He and his wife, you know, in the 18th, 17th century, whenever the hell they were living, they probably got married when they were teenagers. I don't care, honeycomb. That was the 18th, 17th, 19th century. This is set during our times, baby doll. All right. So yes, you can give me that whole thing about, you know, well, it's from Cornelius's lens. It's also from Saskia's lens, Babs. All right. And it's weird. It's revolting. Okay. The fact that this whole thing is not challenged at all by the fact that he's 30 years of age kissing a 17-year-old, that's weird. That's strange, okay? And the fact that you want to highlight him being married as the only issue with that? I gave Mercury Boys 1 star, okay? And it makes me so sad because the cover is gorgeous. I've had this book on my TBR for a few years now, and I am sad to say that I am severely disappointed by this book. This book just had too many technical issues for me, on top of increasingly questionable choices that were made. All right, this book was just not for me. The premise was great, but everything else about it just drug it down and took it for a nosedive. So you guys, that was my rant review for Mercury Boys. I hope that you enjoyed. I don't discourage anybody from reading this, okay? I try never to do that. I hope that if you do pick this up, you like it more than I do, because, yeah, the feelings and the experience that I had and that I went through are things that I would not wish upon other readers, okay? So, you guys, with that being said, I hope that you enjoyed. I hope that you will continue to look out for more stuff on my channel. I hope that you guys are staying safe, and I hope that you guys have a good rest of your day. Goodbye!